I'm going to throw up this next little document here. I want to get into this, but real quick, just what's your opinion? Like, how many bodies do you think are under? What was it, Dove Carrying Way,
Doug
or was it
Michael's Airfield in the Dugway Proving Grounds.
Dugway Proving Ground?
Dugway
So,
Proving
how many
Grounds in
bodies you
Utah.
think we got? I mean, I don't know. Speculating. What do you think? How many bodies?
Well, I've been
You
given
think
a
it's in the
list of
hundreds?
logistically. I don't believe that. I think it's in the high tens, the 40s, 50s,
Somewhere.
maybe.
Okay.
Since
Okay.
since
Interesting.
47, gotta be.
Okay. Yeah. Fair
I
enough.
have an alleged
Curious.
list of 17 crashes. If each crash had two people, two beings.
Yeah.
Alleged list. Alleged list.
Sure.
Alleged
Sure.
list. Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. Okay. No, that's interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So you sent me this document, and it's connected to Dan Burish,
Yes.
um, who I don't know. Can you first tell us what the document is, and then just give us a quick few minute rundown of who Dan Burish is?
Yes, sir. Because
Right.
I
Because
was the
we did.
man. I
Yeah.
hunted
Go ahead.
Dan Burish for 2 years, folks.
Okay.
So
Oh.
when
Okay.
when when all of these luminaries in the UFO world, who bloviate, Jon Stewart gets out of his car, knocks on doors, puts notes on windows. I am old school journalist, investigative reporter. I hunted Dan Burish for 2 years, culminating with a 5 hour jaunt to five different apartment complexes, some of them very sketchy, in Las Vegas, in my golf shorts and my polo, looking for Dan Burish, with the North Las Vegas police stopping me at one point, going, "Do you know where you're at? Like, why are you the building manager? Do you own this apartment building, or are you looking for drugs?" I went to five apartment buildings looking for Dan Burish. I've emailed his ex-girlfriend. Other than flying to Lower Michigan to actually confront him, which I don't know if I'm going to do, I have done my homework on this man as much as I possibly can. So,
Okay.
this
So
okay.
who
So this
is this
document,
guy? Yeah,
Dan
the document,
Burish.
real quick.
Yeah, the document.
Just real
Okay.
quick, the document, but then I'll come back to the document. Or should we just explain who Dan? You know what? Just go
Let's
through who
go.
Dan Burish is, and then I'll bring up the document.
Dan Burish comes out, I believe, in 1993, 4, maybe it was even 1998. Forgive me, folks, to Carrie Cassidy on the Project Camelot, which was back in the 90s the big internet conspiracy consortium and collection of stories, like YouTube
Okay.
stories and whatnot of alleged conspiracies and paranormal ufology. And Dan Burish comes out again for 4 hours for 4 hours, talks in depth about microbiology that my eyes went glassy. But his education
Yeah.
is sketch, just like Bob Lazar. They can't prove anything. There was a student loan that I found unpaid. He did attend SUNY, the New York University called SUNY, and he has got a very sketchy background. But you tell me, I've told my story, folks, the skeptics. You tell me how somebody can talk about microbiology for 4 hours without being a, accredited microbiologist. Well, he claims that he was a prodigy from I believe that like a savant in biology as a kid. He was tagged by the Department of Navy. Funny, a lot of other people, including a mafia guy, claims that the United States Navy tagged him through his mother because he was a savant in a certain thing. Interesting. Again, stories relating with each other. And Dan said, "Hey, he was at S4. He worked on with this J Rod. He extracted information. He extracted biological tissue from this being 110 times. It was in a pressurized sphere. He was in a pressurized suit. It would inject the bean and come back out and extract the the material. He had a neuropathy, which meant his cells were unable to repair the nerve endings, and the government was trying to repair the this issue, this malady with this being. And Dan had a great affection with this J Rod. So did this Major Tom Mack, who said he was just a perfect specimen, a perfect being. He knew everything, could mimic voices. Anyways, so Dan's whole bio was
Wow.
discredited. Dan comes out with a Here we go. I'm like Alex Jones here with all the proof. Dan comes out with a writ of affidavit to the Canadian government saying, I want to go on record with the government and I'm getting it notarized. I'm going in front of a judge. This is who I am. This is where I worked. This is what I did. This is what I experienced. I just want to read you one
Why would he
line
want to
of
go
it.
to Canada though?
He was living in Canada, I believe, at the time, or outside
Oh,
of
okay.
Detroit, or it was something. And maybe I'm wrong about Canada, but the matured. This is the fake biologist. The matured morphology of the Ganesh particle and a chimera of everything from freshwater dinoflagellates to Philodotella organisms like those found in the water sample, and earlier Glomerotera was taken. I mean, I listened to this guy speak for 4 hours. I don't even know what he's saying. His story is crazy. I'm just saying this.
I don't even
I'm
know what you
saying
just
this.
said. I,
I don't either. I'm just saying this. I want your listeners to listen to me because this shit's going to
okay.
get real quick. Dan
Okay.
Burish comes out in 1999, '08, whenever it was, and says, here is a document. It seemed like when they had to do something with the bean, they had to almost get like legislative oversight signatures on a document. Like, yes, Congressman Jon Stewart or General Patrick Armstrong approves of this procedure. Folks, listen to me. Dan Burish brings out this document and he brings out the
Is it
documentation file number of this document. Q94 109 Apple. I immediately take it to Rick Doty, who I've been communicating with at this time for about 2 years. Rick Doty goes, where'd you get that? I'm like, I found it. Why? And Rick Doty said, quote, that is formatted properly. I'm like, Rick, in English, please. He goes, John, a document like that has to have the area, and the area of S4 was Quebec. Q, the date, the year, 1994-109 Apple. Okay, Rick Doty's full of shit, right? That's what everybody would say. Dan Burish is full of shit. Folks, you listen to me right now because I'm shooting straight right here. I sent a FOIA request to the the Defense Intelligence Agency with that. You can see the document with that coded document on, looking for FOIA information on that coded document. And according to two people, one of them being Rick Doty, who told me 3 weeks ago, he hid this from me, that document, quote, sent trip flares up at the DIA. And yes, they know who Jon Stewart is. I follow up with this document. His name was Andrew, because everyone wants names. Andrew at the FOIA desk. He said, quote, Mr. Stewart, I see your name on our file that you submitted something, but I can't figure this out for the life of me. There is no file attached to your name. I said, Andrew, why is that a big deal? He said, Mr. Stewart, you can't get on the FOIA system at the DIA unless you have a request. I'm like, okay. And he fucked up. Oops, sorry. He screwed up. He said, you can only, someone had to go on this computer system and remove your file by hand or electronically. It just doesn't get removed. And I don't know how this happened. I said, well, we
Hmm.
got a problem here. He goes, look, let me get back to you. Happy go lucky. Andrew, FOIA Desk DIA, told me your file was hand removed off the system. I get back 2 hours later. I get the phone call, Mr. Stewart. Yeah, Andrew, DIA. Hey, buddy. Look, yeah, okay. Cheryl Cross Robinson. She's a black woman at the DIA. She's like, I'm going to tell Thanksgiving stories about you. You're crazy with all this alien stuff. This was said to me. My point is, I had a nice relationship with her. Cheryl Cross Robinson is going to send you a letter concerning your file. And that's what I was sent. And it says, Patrick, which we don't put in the body of the name, due to the extreme nature of your request, we will have to conduct cross department conferences and inter office disciplinary meetings to figure out the proper way of disseminating the information to you if that is possible. So the DIA said, According to the fake Dan Burish code that Rick Doty said is properly coded, they now in the Pentagon are going to have meetings, about this document and what to tell me. That's in writing, bottom line. So you tell me about Dan Burish. My point is this: that is all true, and it seems to me this is my Uncle John's belief with the Dan Bob Lazar story, and Dan Burish, this S4 telepath guy that's dead. It appears to me that the government rolled the dice in the 90s and did hire some people who were savants, who did not have a traditional educational background backed up with degrees and thesis papers, to discredit them if they ever broke loose from the pack. And I believe that the United States government, for a short time, did hire people that my Yiddish friends would say were a little mishugana, but savants, were very intelligent in certain fields. And if they break loose and come out and tell you, like Burish and Lazar, we can say Bob Lazar doesn't have any degrees, and it's called sheep dipping them. And this was done to the doctor in the Victor film, in my opinion. Sheep dip. Everything is removed that you can trace them back to their education and so forth. But you can say whatever you want about Dan Burish. That document, that literally tripped alarm bells at the DIA. You explain it to me. I've explained my story. You tell me, did he get it from somebody? Okay, great. He's all full of shit. But now the UFO world has that document code that made the DIA go crazy.
So other people can request this now too, and will it go crazy if they request it?
I'm begging you, please request it. Please.
I feel like, John Greenwald, I've never heard him tell a story like this.
Well, John Greenwald doesn't return my email, so I'm not speaking bad.
Yeah.
Hey, your viewers need and deserve the freaking truth from my experience. John Greenwald hasn't returned a freaking email in 5 years. Do what you want with that. I'm not saying anything negative about him. But when a guy is trying and I'm calling out for help, I like John too. But why have you not returned an email?
Maybe if you
Doty help me write FOIAs. You think Rick Doty, that's what he needs to do, is sit there for 3 hours on the phone and tell me, no, say this,
help you write
say
FOIAs.
that. Come on.
Well, look,
Sorry.
I mean, look,
Sorry.
First of all, I personally do not trust Rick Doty. That's just my opinion. You have yours. That's fine. Right. I will say in defense of John, he probably gets a lot of emails, but if you sent Annie Jacobson that long text, first impression, maybe if you said something like that to John, he may have been like, dude, because that's just a lot to take in at first time. But I don't know. Hopefully, maybe if John's watching this, maybe he'll reach out and
saying one bad
see
thing
if he
about
can
John
help you with
Greenwald.
FOIA. No, and you did it.
Viewers deserve 100% honesty, no matter what they think of me, what they think of my investigation. I am giving your viewers the respect to tell them the 100% truth of my experience. That's all.
Would you release the rest of this?
Oh,
response?
absolutely. I'll send it. Yes.